over in Germany remain resolute, we're told this morning. They're not going to be forced into selling the star striker. We know who that is, despite big interest across Europe. Haaland has a release clause, we know, that's going to activate at the end of the next season, allowing him to leave for 65 million. So if he went this summer, Dortmund would command double that figure.
Potentially.
What do you do, Simon, in a situation like this? How would you negotiate the sticking point of a release clause as buyer and seller? What do you do? Do you wait?
Well, it's a two-way transaction, isn't it? In this particular equation, he signed a 4-year contract with Dortmund. I think he signed in December 2019, so he had a 4.5-year contract. It's very interesting that they stuck a release clause in his contract, directly in the middle of his contract. So prior to that, any time up to the middle of his contract, any purchasing club has to pay the economics that Dortmund want to demand, right? Post the middle of his contract, when you start to move to the other side of the argument, when they're winding the contract down, he can be released for 65 million quid. And I suspect that's a trade-off that the agent made when he was going to Dortmund, saying, look, you know, if he hits the ground and really does well for you in the first 2 years, and you can cash in on him if you want, after the second year, then we control the situation a little bit more, and his wages won't be affected by you saying we want 150 million quid for this player, and a club saying we're paying 150 million quid, so we're not going to give him 600 grand a week as well.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting one, but from a buying club, if you can buy him in a year's time for 65 million pounds, and you're being offered him now for 130 million pounds, the economics of that additional 65 million are yours to decide. Do you believe that getting him a year early takes others out of the race? Because don't forget, if everyone's buying him at 65 million quid, because that's the release clause, then all he'll be able to do is pick which club's going to pay him the most.
Exactly, there'll be a pile-on.
So there'll be a pile-on. So if you're prepared to pay the inflated premium, then you take everyone else out of the equation. If you're Man United, you take, say, Barcelona out of the equation, Real Madrid out of the equation. You give Riola his opportunity to get his sweaty mitt on some more cash, but that's just the dynamics of the scenario. But also, you then got the opportunity to perhaps avail yourself of more achievement in that season than you might have gotten if you didn't have him. So if you're at a Real Madrid and you want to win the Champions League the following year, and that's worth an extra 30, 40 million quid, you might then pay that extra 60 million quid alongside the achievements in the domestic league, alongside the fact you'll leverage his brand to make more money from it, to be able to justify why you're paying 60 million quid earlier than you perhaps need to a year earlier.
And what do you do if you're Dortmund?
Well, if
you take it now?
Well,
again, and get a chunk of money, or do you wait and just, it's an auction at 65?
Well, again, the same argument. The argument is less beneficial to them because they're in a situation where clearly they're a football club that wants to achieve things. They've got a player that they've signed. They've given him a release clause directly in the middle of his contract. So it's 2 years out, 2 years in. So you're not on a ticking clock. And there's still a situation where you might be able to find an ability to renegotiate that clause with the player by saying, look, 2 years into our contract, we like one another, but the clock's running down, so why don't we renegotiate this £65 million clause, and we'll give you 10% of any clause value that goes above that. So we move it up now to 100 million quid, and we'll give you 10% of the difference. So there's a £4 million kicker for you. So there's a whole raft. If you've got the player in your building, to coin a football expression, you've got the opportunity to influence him as much as you have without the outside world agents like Riola in his ear, because making a move will give him more money. So I think it's a difficult one for Dortmund because he is bigger than Borussia Dortmund, isn't he? In terms of, I know this goes down the narrative that we don't want to hear about bigger clubs because we've just seen an example of how bigger clubs seek to behave, right? But the fact of the landscape is that he isn't going to spend his career at Borussia Dortmund. He's going to move to Manchester United, Manchester City, maybe Liverpool, less likely Liverpool, but more maybe Madrid, maybe Barcelona. So Dortmund, unfortunately for them, are a stepping stone.
Sure.
They're a stepping stone.
They become a stepping stone.
So if I'm Dortmund now, in a COVID climate, and someone is stupid enough to rock through the door leading with their chin as a checkbook and say, I'll give you 150 million quid in this climate.
Cha-ching.
I'm going to break their arm off at the shoulder, aren't I?
Yeah, you're going to.
Really?
I get it. I like how we call it the Tesco Mobile for Business chat. But basically it comes down to, I'll have that wad of money.
I'll have that money.
Thank you very much.